Oh my, right?
I love it. We are live.
Cool.
So, hello everyone. Welcome to the Inspired Messenger Show. I'm your host, Mark Porteous, and I'm here today with our special guest, Barb Wade, which I will have the honor to introduce in just a moment. I just want to start off with the preface that I really believe that we all choose this life for a reason, and that aligning with your purpose is the most exciting and rewarding adventure imaginable. And this series is really designed to inspire, educate, and motivate you to recognize and share your own divine gifts with the world. And we share information, resources, and action steps that you can take now to improve your personal and professional life so you can better fulfill your mission. And you can watch previous episodes or watch the replay of this episode and find other helpful resources at inspiredmessengersnetwork.com. I'm pleased to work with these amazing mentors and teachers who are aligned with my mission to empower inspired messengers and soul-driven entrepreneurs with the tools and support they need to thrive in their purpose of transforming lives. It's a great honor for me to introduce my mentors and colleagues to you so we can all benefit from sharing their wisdom. One of the most important lessons that I've learned from my own mentors and my clients actually is integrating my business and my professional life or my personal life to see myself as a whole being rather than a cluster of the different. So I'm super excited about our theme today of love-based living, key tools to release fear, doubt, and self-sabotage in work and life for real. My guest, Barb Wade, is a speaker, author, and coach who works with high achievers who, despite big accomplishments, know they're not truly living. They're stressed, restless, unfulfilled, and long for freedom, joy, and meaning in their lives. Barb's coaching allows her clients to uncover who they really are and what they really, truly want authentically and release any fears, self-doubts, and shoulds that stand in the way of this extraordinary vision. Hello, Barb. Welcome.
Hey, Mark, how are you?
I'm doing very, very well, and I'm really, really excited for this conversation. Thank you for giving us some of your time and your energy.
Always for you. Absolutely. I share your vision, and we have so many friends in common, and it was such a joy to meet you last year. So yeah, let's do what we can together.
I love it. Yes, and I agree. We there's so much that we share where we're really here for a lot of the same work, and just to kind of plug into what you're doing in the world is a pleasure. And the kind of going right along with the theme of what we're talking about today, you've gone through a big shift in your business, which rolls into your personal life and everything else. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that piece of it for you?
Yeah, that'll set some good context, especially to the conversation about fear and love and how we make our choices in our lives. So my story is that I've been coaching for 16 years. I actually started my coaching officially in 2000. And I had gone to back to school to do a master's in spiritual psychology, and I had done coaching training. And my vision at that time was to assist others in the transformational personal work that I had been so, I don't know, wonderfully, generously facilitated through with my own therapists and coaches and mentors for the decade prior to that. And in my own life, my own experience was one where I went from a life that was very stressful, very shame-based, very much about my running to achieve things to fill a hole of unworthiness, and kind of falling apart in that. In other words, amassing all the success and yet not feeling worthwhile and not feeling lovable and not feeling safe and not feeling all the things I thought I would feel when I would finally arrive and get there. And so I went into my own path as a client, right, with therapists and wonderful facilitators and practitioners and coaches and weekends and workshops and trainings and all the stuff that we embrace when we're on our own path of transformation. And it was so powerful that I decided my career had to go in that direction. I had to do that with other people. There was nothing more important. And that's when I did go back to school. I did a master's in spiritual psychology, coaching training, and opened up my practice. So for 10 years, I had the incredible honor of holding that space for people and facilitating people in those kinds of breakthroughs around self-love and self-compassion and authenticity. And then I myself when 2009 came around, was in a real crisis when the economy crashed because my husband's income went away overnight. We had a 2-income family with 2 small children who were 2 and 4 at the time. And he could not get work again. And the industry he was in, things just really went flat for a while. And about a year into him not having any work, and my life coaching practice was fine and thriving, but it wasn't enough income for 2. I hired a big coach to help me grow my life coaching bigger to kind of cover the shortfall, and ended up being advised to go into coaching other coaches on how to build their businesses as successfully as I had. And I was told you'd be a fabulous mentor to teach client attraction and teach other types of health practitioners and therapists and solopreneurs in healing and helping fields how to attract clients and grow their businesses. And so I took that advice and I went down that path for the next 5 years. So from 2009 to 2015, I really, 5 to 6 years, transitioned into that and grew a very, very big business that got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and more successful, because there are a lot of people who need that service. And I was also very good at teaching it. But the truth is I was more and more unhappy, because I had let go of my own authenticity. I had fallen off track with really who I am and why I got into coaching in the first place and what I care about and the thing that's meaningful to me in terms of facilitating this powerful work with people around, self-love and authenticity and joy. Instead, I was teaching people marketing and teaching people selling, and I was grateful to do it, but I was getting further and further and further away from my own heart. And I want to be really transparent that fear started taking over with me. I'm a coach. I should know better. You think, like, I teach this stuff, I should know better. But sometimes when it's oneself, we don't see it. And I got very gripped with fear that I couldn't stop the train from continuing, because as it was growing, because I had people depending on me, and I had now a couple people on staff, and my husband is included, and the kids, and I let myself go further and further and further into a direction where we hit like our all-time income high, and I hit my all-time quality of life low. Depression, extreme amount of weight gain, irritability, real marital trouble. I was deeply unhappy. And what ended up happening is about a year to 18 months ago, I had a real breakdown and breakthrough around, I can't do this anymore. But no amount of money is worth it. No amount of reputation or prestige or perception or, again, exponential income is remotely worth being this unaligned, this depressed, this unhappy, this bitchy. I mean, like all of it. So the big change I made that you're alluding to is about middle of last year. I made the decision, I'm done. I'm going back to personal growth work. I'm going back to why I got into this. It's my sweet spot. It's where my real gifts and talents are. And the income will be what it'll be. And I don't even care. I've got to do why I'm on the planet. I've got to let go and trust. So at the end of this last year, we did close down my business building practice, and I rebranded back in the space of transformational personal growth and what I love. So a really big leap, a love-based leap rather than a fear-based leap. And that's why I wanted to talk about that decision and that topic today, love versus fear, and how we make our choices, as someone who's admitting a lot of recent fear-based choices, and a huge love-based choice to walk away from that and trust and build what I am now back into being. And it's going beautifully and unfolding gracefully in the personal growth space. So that was supposed to be a summary, but as is typical with me, a little long-winded, I think.
That was a beautiful summary. I think you covered a whole lot, and it really was very, very relevant, again, to the whole topic. One of the things that was coming to mind, and I've thought about this since we've talked about the idea of transitioning from a 7-figure business about coaching something around business to doing what you really love. And a lot of people, whether they're transitioning from a career that isn't fulfilling and they're going into something completely unknown, or if they've been on this path as a coach, a healer, whatever their message might be, to say, well, yeah, it's a lot harder to crawl your way up. But I think in your position, that, like you said, there's a lot more to lose. There's a lot more of people being let down, and all of these fears that I can imagine you must have gone through about taking a leap from there.
Yeah.
But it's the same. I guess what I'm coming to is that it's kind of the same steps, no matter where you are, what that leap is that you're making. And I think it goes right to one of the bullet points that you talked about, was the two opposing core motivations that you must recognize that are underneath every action or decision. And I think that's kind of, again, doesn't matter what position you're in, it's those same two things.
Yeah, the truth is that every decision or choice we make is rooted in one form of love or fear. It's that simple. Now, love-based decisions can be decisions that are rooted in trust, creativity, faith, abundance, generosity, play. I would consider those all synonyms or variations on the concept of love. Fear-based decisions can be made based on anger, resentment, manipulation, need to control, lack consciousness. I'm going to miss out, so I'm going to make this decision so I don't miss out. And those kinds of variations, and there are more, of fear. So it's insidious because it's sometimes hard to know from a particular decision. You can't see just from the decision itself, was it rooted in love or was it rooted in fear? The same decision can be made on either foundation. And what I think you're pointing to, and the thing I wanted to talk about around this, is how getting really honest with oneself about what's driving this choice is the first step. It's huge. Like, am I making this decision out of love or making this decision out of fear? And which is it? And just as a point of awareness, and let's use a really simple, like really simple example. So let's say, as a coach, let's say I had an event, a particular evening, a networking event, an event where I might see colleagues and I might make some connections and even meet some potential new clients. And it's the day of that event, and I'm really starting to feel a little under the weather. I'm feeling depleted. I've got a headache. I'm not feeling well. And I've got to decide, am I going to go to this thing? Right? Nice, simple example. Well, I could decide I'm going to go to this thing because I really want to see the people I'm going to meet. I miss some of my colleagues. I want to be of service. That's a priority to me. Or I can make the decision, I'm going to go to this thing because what if there are clients there? And if I'm not there, I'm not going to meet them. And I need money right now. And if I don't go, they could, I'm going to miss out on an opportunity. Like, the decision to go to the thing could be based on love and generosity and generativity, or could be based on fear and lack. Alternately, the decision to stay home, right, could be based on love, could be based on fear. So I have to look at, how do I evaluate what the choice is and what would love say? And I always use those words, what would love say, those 4 words, meaning if I was in trust, if I was in abundance, if I was in love of myself and others, what would love say about this decision? And it's just been so impactful because I catch myself in a decision that I realize, gosh, this is really ultimately rooted in fear. I'm disguising it as love in my own mind, but if I really think about it, I'm wanting to be sure I do this so I'm perceived a certain way. That's control. Or I'm wanting to be sure I do this so that this other thing doesn't happen. That's manipulating my world, right? And so I'll go, what would love say? Love would say, let go and trust. In fact, I think I'll take this path and make this decision instead. So I found that to be a really good tool, right? To kind of get to the root of what is motivating my decision, right? Because awareness is first. And then, what am I willing to choose here? What would love say? And am I courageous enough to choose what love would say to do? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
So, and again, that's the base decision, whatever position you're in. And I love your example because, again, you can see how making the decision either direction could be based out of love or fear.
Yeah. It's like people think, well, I'll be able to recognize the action that's fear-based. It's like, how can you tell? My decision to communicate something to someone might be out of love and self-advocacy and boundaries, or it might be out of anger and rage, communicating that same thing. So the act itself doesn't reveal. It's the underlying motivation that's the ticket to going, let me really be fully aware of and responsible for and mindful of the decisions I'm choosing to make. Yeah.
And you also gave a lot of different examples of what love can look like and what fear can look like. But you talk about one thing that we're truly most afraid of.
Yeah, here's what I've found in years and years of coaching. I really truly believe that in life, the thing, let's take this to the more abstract with a goal we're going to pursue. So whatever that goal might be, and it's important to us and we're really excited about it, but we hinder ourselves, we get stuck, we sabotage, we get afraid, we move forward toward it, but then we stumble back a little. Like this happens with big goals, like, right? That's a normal human experience. They have the phrase 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, right? It's a dance to get to a big goal. And a lot of the time I found with myself and with clients that we think we're afraid of, if I really go for it, what if I fail? What if I fall on my face? What if everyone sees me fail? Like, what if I declare I'm going to pursue blah, blah, blah. I'm going to run this marathon. And if I've told everybody and I fail, I screw it up, I don't get there, I don't even start, or I start and I blow it, whatever, I will be so ashamed. What will people think? How will it look? And that we're afraid of failure. So that can hinder us from pursuing a goal fully, right? Like it's almost safer to not pursue it fully and keep in the back of my mind, well, I haven't really given it my full effort yet. If I did, I'm sure I'd succeed. If I really gave it my full effort, I'm sure, but I haven't yet. So, I don't want to judge myself yet. We kind of hold back because the fear is, what if I go for it and I publicly fail and I realize that with all effort, I screwed it. I'm a loser. I'm not good enough, whatever words would come. And I found that the thing we are really most afraid of is how we are going to treat ourselves and be with ourselves at that point. It's actually not about what anyone else is going to think or say. We think it is. We associate shame with, I'll be so embarrassed, I'll be ashamed, I will look, fill in the blank. Mm-hmm. Truth is, we are so worried that we will beat the shit out of ourselves. We are so worried of our own self-imposed shame, of how angry we'll be at ourselves, how embarrassed we'll be, how much we'll just hate ourselves. We'll be so upset with ourselves. And that's actually the most painful thing, to be in that kind of a chasm with yourself, that amount of self-directed reproach, that self-reproach, that whipping oneself is such a painful place to be. That is what we are afraid of more than what anybody else might think. And that's wonderful news when you realize that, because what then you can do is realize, well, wait a minute, can I negotiate with myself? This is something I actually did the first year I pursued coaching as a profession. I had no idea if I'd be any good at it. I had no idea if I'd get any clients. And I was walking away from a really big career where I actually worked for DreamWorks and was working for Spielberg, and it all looked great, but it wasn't authentic. And I really wanted to do the coaching thing. So I did the training. I told you I went back to school. And that first year, I didn't know how it was going to go. And I contracted with myself. And I actually have this as a little written contract that I would give it 1 year. And at the end of that year, no matter whether I fell on my face, no matter whether I didn't get a single client, that what would meet me at the end of that year would be Barb with her arms open saying, I'm so proud of you. Look how much you learned this year. Look how hard you played. Look how courageously you showed up. Now, you may not have gotten any clients. You may not have made $1. So perhaps we should evaluate, this career isn't a fit. But I am so proud of you. And it was not a moment of wasted time. Like I had to contract with myself, like on a contract, that's what would meet me at the end of a year, versus that what would meet me was, you idiot, you wasted a year. Look at you, you suck. Like people didn't even want what you had to offer. Like, again, the biggest fear is our own self-loathing. The biggest fear is our own self-reproach, I believe, not what others will think of us. Because, Mark, you know this too, that what others think of us impacts us only if it has a place to land, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that so many messengers can relate to this. I know I certainly can. And I don't think I was really aware of it. Of course, we all know about the self-sabotage and the beating yourself up, but to actually compare it to what other people can do to me and realize that how much worse it is. Again, we all are all loving and everything else, and yet how can we still be so hard on ourselves?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's funny because, you know, other people can judge the hell out of you, but if you're not holding that same secret judgment inside that that's true, then their judgment really has nowhere to land. And it's not pleasant to be judged. It's not pleasant to have people, you know, choose to think of you a certain way or perceive you a certain way, but it has no power to devastate unless it's really just mirroring some self-talk that's already there, some fear that that's really true, which is why I conclude that what we're really most worried about is our own relationship to ourselves and how we're going to be with ourselves, right? So I wanted to share that example of the year and the, you know, what I said I will be like at the end of the year. Who will meet me at the end of the year? And if I promise myself it's not going to be the mean Barb, it's going to be the loving, I'm so proud of you. You didn't waste any time. You're fine. You're not defined by whether or not the coaching practice worked or didn't work. What defines you to me is your courage and your tenacity. When I made that commitment, imagine my relationship that year to pursuing the coaching. Like the pressure was off. The self-worth hanging in the balance was off. It was, I'm worthwhile and courageous and creative and risk-taking and worthy of love and appreciation. And yet the coaching may not work. I may really suck. It may not be the right fit for me, or it might go great, or it might be something in the middle. But without that shroud of fear and terror that my self-esteem is inexorably connected to this goal, I found I was also able to be more creative and actually try different things and take more risks than I would have if I was so obsessed with how it would turn out. So it's a funny little catch-22, right? By taking that level of pressure off, I was probably setting myself up to be more successful by trying different things that I never would have risked if I was under my own scrutiny.
That's so powerful, and I love that example. I mean, I could just feel you welcoming yourself after that year, and how that empowers you to, like you said, to take risks. We often learn in coaching about the idea of making decisions out of fear, like you were talking about before, and when you're doing it out of empowerment, and how you make different decisions. When you're making decisions out of desperation, it's a whole lot different. When you're trying to defend your honor toward yourself, that is a lot of pressure to live up to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So
beautiful.
That is what I believe we're most afraid of. But that's the good news, though, because then we have the full, entire control to solve and heal the thing we're most afraid of. Like, thank God we're not most afraid of something on the outside that we have no control over, and therefore we're stuck being afraid of it indefinitely. Like, now we have the control to diminish or dissolve the thing we're most afraid of. Like, that's ultimately pretty cool, you know?
And that's a really good example for yourself. Is that the answer for making this switch all the time? Is that the tool is to vision yourself and being forgiving and loving to yourself?
Do you mean the switch from fear into a little more faith or trust?
Yeah.
I think there are a couple of real instant things that can happen that one can use that are relevant to what we've been talking about. If I catch myself in fear, I got to look at what is the fear, right? And inevitably the fear is something that has self-talk associated with it, right? That has, oh my God, this would be a catastrophe. I would kill myself if that happened. Oh my God, I'd be in so much trouble if that happened. I'd be screwed. I'd be angry. I can't risk this. So you see that any fear has all of those thoughts. Similar, I mean, I'm not sure it's that thought every time, but those kinds of thoughts associated with the fear, which makes us recognize, whoa, who's doing that thinking? Who's doing that assuming? And what would love say? Right? Go right back to where we were a little while ago. What would love say here? And sometimes I'll ask myself, what would love say? And I'll recognize I'm still not sure I'm ready to let go of the fear. I see what love would say, and I'm even just at in the moment a little too scared to go with what love would say. But at least I recognize that, okay, that's a step. That's a step, you know? And it immediately diminishes the power of the fear. And then you go, okay, let's see if next time I'd be willing to take a step toward what love would say. Oh my God, I survived it. Oh my God, it worked. And so over time you realize, wow, that's really just a shift I'm building a muscle in. you know? Like one thing I tell clients is it's really, don't guilt yourself that like, okay, I realize I'm making a fear-based decision. What would love say? Love would do some other thing. And I'm not ready to, and I'm too scared to. So I'm a loser. What? Look at me. I'm doing this wrong. Like, let's go back to the example of the networking event. Let's say I was really afraid that I need clients desperately, and I might have some great people I would meet there who could become my clients. So I really ought to go. I really need to go. If I don't go, I'll miss out. If I don't go, I'll miss on some possible clients. And I go, okay, let me excavate that that's fear-based. Clearly that's based on fear, scarcity, lack, not trust, not abundance. So what would love say? Love would say, kiddo, you've got a low-grade fever. You're starting to get a cold. You have a headache and you're depleted. Love would say, stay home and rest. Love would say, trust that the ideal clients are coming to you right now from all kinds of sources, and that by taking care of yourself, it aligns with the highest good for you and for all, right? That's what love would say. I might recognize, gosh, I see that, and I'm still just too afraid that there are people there that I'll miss, and I can't yet bring myself to stay home and take care of myself. I'm so in a place of fear around money, and I'm just going to go. I'm just going to go just in case there are some people there. And I know it's fear-based. I know love would say stay home. I say that's okay. Like, what an amazing first step, right, Mark? The awareness, like, okay, I am going to take an act, but at least I'm aware I'm fear-based. And maybe next time I'll lean toward the love-based choice, and maybe a little further the time after that, maybe a little further the time after that. And it's a process. It's really a process. So
that's really powerful too, because I see that whole idea of beating yourself up for not making that loving decision all the time. And so giving yourself some forgiveness right off the bat, that is a beautiful step towards self-love.
yeah.
To accept you right where you are, and know that you might not be ready for the ultimate love decision yet.
Well, it's like we can beat ourselves up around spiritual principles, right? All of us. Like the spiritual thing to do is to act from love all the time. And you know, I like to really be compassionate with myself and encourage clients as well that there's also a human part of me, and sometimes I'm gripped in some fear, and the best I can do is recognize, okay, I'm making a choice a little rooted in fear, but I recognized it. I'm taking some time to explore it. I've got curiosity about it. I'm not going to beat myself up. So we don't want to use spiritual growth against ourselves as a tool to beat ourselves up even further. Please don't do that. Anybody watching or listening, that would really be antithetical to the whole game here. Right?
Absolutely. And again, I love how the idea of love-based living really starting at home and loving yourself, because the more compassion that we can have for ourselves, then that grows the capacity for everyone else. Because you were saying earlier how we beat ourselves up more than anyone else, and if we can do that less, then we'll be able to be more compassionate outward. And I imagine that in the same time that not only this is a more enjoyable way to be living, you must feel much freer, and well, you've made that jump, and you're somewhere maybe in the gap between, but it just feels so much lighter. And when you did that with your business, and you made that contract to greet yourself with open, loving arms, that became probably a part of your teaching to everyone else about how to build a successful business, because it worked.
Right. It did. It did. And, you know, for 10 years, I had a practice I absolutely loved. Then as I shared, the last few years, I went a little off track. Amazing spiritual opportunity for growth. Back, you know, choosing love again. I think this is going to be a lifelong process for all of us. And so have fun with it, right?
And it's like a spiral staircase, because again, you go through those lessons again. We don't stop learning. It's just you're learning them at a different level now. And I appreciate you being such a authentic and open, vulnerable case study for all of us, leading the way. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Cool.
And
I have something related to this for everyone. Shall I tell them about it now?
I was just going to ask.
All right. So I have a report called Love versus Fear. What a shock, guys, right? I have a report called Love versus Fear, How to Make Spirit-Led Decisions for a Prosperous Life. And it takes this exercise and it just goes into a little more depth. It walks through all those different variations of love and variations of fear, and how to stop and assess where you're coming from and how to ask what would love say. And it fleshes it out a little bit more than we've been able to share here. It's available for everyone. Use it, live it, love it, enjoy. It's at barbwade.com/mark. So it's BARBWADE, as you see, I'm sure on the screen, barbwade.com/mark, MARK, right? With a K.
Yep. Yep.
And enjoy it, grab it, and try this stuff on. And, drop me a note too. Like, sounds like a generic email. It is, because we have to have my assistant help me wade through stuff, but anything directed to me directly, I will get. If you want to comment on it, if you want to try it on, info@barbwade.com. Hey, I heard you on Mark's show and I got the report and I tried this on and I have a question, or here's how it worked for me. It will get to me, and I welcome it. And I love to hear from you guys. So.
And that's absolutely true. I appreciate your connection and your desire to serve. We do have the same mission and the same audience of people that are out there, but just sharing your whole process very openly has been very, very powerful for me. I appreciate that. And again, the tool, if you're watching the video, you can just go right to the side of the video and you'll see the little button right there. Click that. If you're listening to the audio, you've got the URL. And again, it's just such a powerful thing to be able to make those decisions. I think that's one of the biggest challenges for most people, is not having a clear decision-making process then they're judging, oh, is this the right thing? And this way you can say, okay, this is the love-based decision, and this is the decision I'm going to make. It might not be quite the same, and I'm going to love myself for that, but at least you know this,
right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great guide, a wonderful tool. Thank you for sharing.
My pleasure.
And again, I appreciate your time here. The time does fly by. You shared quite a bit in the very condensed time. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we say goodbye?
Oh gosh, that's a very open question, very broad. Really just that it's a joy to be in this process, and that I want to acknowledge everybody watching, specifically just for being here and watching. I mean, really give yourself some self-love and some acknowledgement, because whatever you're doing right now in your world, there are a lot of other places you could be, and you decided to be here and get in on the conversation and watch and learn and be open, and that's how we grow, and that's how we evolve, and that's how you allow Mark and I to share our messages. Otherwise we'd be talking to each other, which is fulfilling to an extent, but it's nicer when people are also joining us. But it also is a real vote of self-love and self-advocacy to make time for these kinds of things. So good on ya. Thank you for being here, and onward with love.
Absolutely, that's beautiful. And you just saved my whole closing, because that's exactly what I like to say. Just reminding everyone that they truly are beacons of light, that they have great gifts to share, and investing in yourself. And this topic of self-love is so important, because we're so good at loving everyone else. And the better that we can love ourselves, the better we'll be at loving everyone. So thank you for investing your time and being here with us. Thank you for making that effort to actually follow through on the guide and learning from it, and continuing to use it, and then letting Barb know how it worked for you. Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. Thank you, Barb, for the brilliant light that you are. Keep shining brightly. Namaste.
Hi, everybody.